You're watching The Beer Garden, your landscape industry podcast that's best enjoyed with a beverage.
Hey, welcome to the Beer Garden. I am 50% of your host team here, Jason Hoke, and over there I have Brandon Comstock joining me as always.
Hello.
Hello. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that I am intimately familiar with and really excited to chat about. But so if you've ever thought about outsourcing your customer service team, but you've had concerns about, client relationships, kind of the overall kind of visibility and what that looks like for your company, then this episode's going to be for you. So in this episode, we'll break down two very common outsourcing models specifically for that customer service role, what you should expect, how to make sure your customers stay happy even when you're not the one picking up the phone. But before we get into that, Brandon, how are you doing and what are you drinking?
I'm doing good. Something new with me. I think you may have seen it in a group chat today, but Michelle got me on the keto diet.
Yeah.
So just started on Sunday, and it's Wednesday now. So I don't know if I'm in ketosis yet, as they say.
Yep.
I'm peeing on the strips, checking it.
Wow, you're going all in on this. You're like, you got strips and monitoring systems.
How would you know otherwise? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to know I'm doing it right. So far I'm basically, it's not showing much. So
okay.
It's the coolest. It's like the best diet, basically the only diet I've ever been on. And it's just like eat lots of meat and fat. And I love it, dude.
Yeah.
It's just the diet for me. And I don't understand how it can make you skinny. I don't understand that part. But apparently that's what's going to happen. So beer of the day is Michelob Ultra.
Wow.
I don't know who brews that.
Michelob
is that the brand? It's not owned by some.
That's the brand. Well,
Right.
it probably is. I think it's probably owned by like Coors or Anheuser-Busch.
Oh, Labatt.
Labatt. Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Brewed by Labatt. In Edmonton, apparently. Unlikely. That's what it says. So
nice.
That's what I got. Yeah.
I'll be interested to hear. You'll have to keep us updated on your keto journey. You should talk to Jonathan about that. He did keto for a long time.
No way. Yeah, we're doing it for 3 weeks.
Nice.
And I don't know. It's good.
I always
don't eat pasta, which I really like. But
I was a fan of the paleo diet. Are you familiar with that one?
I heard of it, but I don't really know what that is.
Basically, the whole origin is you basically are supposed to eat like a caveman ate to a certain extent. So you're just supposed to avoid processed shit and things that so same. You can eat a bunch of meat, you can eat a bunch of vegetables, just don't eat a bunch of processed shit. So it always kind of just made sense to me. But
can it be cooked? Is this like caveman?
You can cook it. Yes. Yeah. There are some people that go super hardcore on it. There's I remember reading a whole bunch of books about it back in the day, but yeah.
You know Liver King?
No.
Wow. He's like a social media guy that got all jacked and he eats raw liver and he has this big following. He just got a special on Netflix or Prime or something.
Huh.
And he's totally insane. He's super, super, super jacked and just got accused a lot of using steroids. And then eventually, after years of saying he didn't and telling everybody that he didn't, he admitted he does.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you should check it out. There was rumors that he had ab implants.
Oh.
Like the BBL for abs.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
All right. So you're drinking Michelob Ultra.
Yeah, sorry. It's going to be that way for a few episodes, guys.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's that or White Claws. Somehow White Claws are allowed. What are you doing?
I'm very excited about this one. It's a beer that I have not tried before. I've featured this brewery before. So this is from Knotted Root Brewing Company. But I'm excited about it because this is a very fitting beer. It's not sure about the name, but it's called the Moist Green Organic. But look at this. Look at that.
Hold that closer. Is that a lawnmower?
It is.
Oh, dude, I know which kind of lawnmower that is even.
What is it?
That's an old Lawn Boy 2-stroke with 3 wheels.
It is a Lawn Boy. You're right.
That's a classic push mower.
It even says Lawn Boy on it. Yeah.
But it didn't have like 4 wheels like all mowers are today. It had one like on the side of the deck. Maybe it's 4, but one of them was on the side of the deck.
No, you're right. I'm looking at the
picture.
It's
blasted the environment. They weren't good for the environment at all.
Well, yeah, I was very excited to see this. It was calling my name. So,
oh my God, dude, save me one of those. Did you
All
buy
right.
only one?
I did buy only one, but I can get more. I can get more. The store has more.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't be on keto by the time I'm in Denver. Or I won't be by the time there's a Lawn Boy beer in front of me. That's awesome.
Right? All right, let's
If there's ever a sponsor, that's got to be it.
That's got to be the one, right? That was my thought too.
Cheers me.
Cheers.
To Michelob.
The Beer Garden brought to you by Knotted Root Moist Green Organic Lawn Boy beer. Ooh, it even has like a I almost said it tastes like
grass,
but it's not a ringing endorsement of the beer. It has a earthy tones to it is how I'll put it.
Dude, we should brew a beer.
That's good.
A little bit of grass clippings in there.
Maybe that's what we'll do while you're down here. We'll brew our own grass beer.
That sounds awesome. Oil and grass.
Yeah.
That's what it could be called. Okay.
All right. What are we doing here?
We're talking about CSRs, which you know a lot more about. I know very little, things I've learned from you, but it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, we should say really quick that stands for customer service representative.
Yeah. So I guess typically more popular in like high volume companies like yours that have a lot of one-off jobs, single family residential, high volume of calls to the point where you need a call center, like your company's gotten to that size. So yeah, there's a couple of different models there. One of them being that call center model. What have you found, and what do you use at ACA?
Yeah, so I've actually used both the models that we're going to talk about today. So I've used the call center model, which is option 1. And just to define that, call center, when I say call center model, I'm really speaking about like you hire a company that has like a whole building of representatives that are answering phones, but they're not specifically only answering phones for your business. Like there's essentially a routing system bringing all these calls from other businesses in, and it's just first available agents taking it. They're answering the phone for you and handling it that way. That's the call center model. It's like a bunch of different agents. You get no say over who the agents are. It's just like it's going to be the first person that picks up the phone, versus the method that we're using nowadays, which is a dedicated outsourced rep. So this is basically like
a full-time but like contracted out remote employee.
Could be full or part-time, but it's a subcontractor. And generally, for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about someone most times who is like overseas. You could certainly hire someone locally, but that's kind of just the standard, like you're just hiring a customer service rep. So for the sake of this conversation, we're talking like overseas, but just outsourced rep for your.
So on the call center model, where there's any number of people that there's an incoming call, they're like, oh, it's for ACA. By the time they answer the phone, they have to know the company they're calling about. And I would assume that unless the questions are literally just like, what time are you open until every time, there's going to have to be a script or something for them to follow. Is that kind of on the right track?
That's exactly right. So with the call center model, it's super script heavy, very standardized, and I'll just say like pretty limited. Like because it has to be so script heavy and very
Sure.
standardized, like there's a very limited number of things that these representatives can handle for you. Um, Now you mentioned something at the beginning that I wanted to just touch on because you said, typically this is for companies that are and you're not wrong. It's most often you see this with companies that are very like high volume. That being said, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a huge company when you go this route. In fact, like when we first did the call center model, it was literally Mark, who was the previous owner of the business, and myself, and we were the only two employees at the company.
Okay, that makes
But
sense. And
yeah,
you're in the field. You can't take you can't or don't want to take all the calls all day while you're on the tools.
exactly. So the reason we decided to go with a call center was because we were, for a long time, we were on the tools and we were taking phone calls between jobs in the drive time between jobs. So we were a field staff and the office staff. And it just got to a point where we were missing calls. It was the biggest thing wasn't even like, oh, we don't want to do this. We have too much volume or whatever. We just started realizing that we were missing calls while we were out on the tools, and then we would try to call those people back and we wouldn't get a hold of them, and so we were
They
losing
hired someone else or
we were
something.
yeah, we were losing leads essentially. So
Right.
um and then inevitably there's hours that we're just not going to answer the phone because we're
Yeah.
asleep or we're eating or whatever. So this gave us an option to have someone answering the phone 24/7, so we went with the call center model. um,
Out of curiosity, how does that look if they can't answer the question? So if the call center person gets asked, it's something outside was like, hey, I want to order aerating. They ask questions about aerating, and then the call center person's just like doesn't know.
Yeah. It depends on the call center you have, but most call centers nowadays, they'll give you, they'll have a couple different options for the rep to take at that point. Between certain hours, it would be treated just like they were like a member of your staff that only had a certain like skill set. And what they would do is say, oh, you know what? I can't really answer that for you, but let me transfer you to someone that can. And then they would transfer them to you at that point.
Okay.
So the advantage is they would filter out a bunch of people that were just easy, simple questions, and they would answer all those. And then the ones that were like beyond their ability, they would transfer to you during a set amount of hours that you define for the group. If they can't transfer, if it's outside of those hours, it would essentially, you would think of it as like a message taking service. Like they
That's
would,
what I was thinking. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really common. Like basically, I would think of this call center a lot of the time as like a transcription service. The advantage is that you get a human on the phone, and there's
They can
always
probably answer 80-90% of the questions anyway. Much better experience for the customer, the caller, having someone answer the phone that they can speak with
Yeah.
than just getting a voicemail and
yeah.
hoping for the best, right?
And we're not going to get too into like all the kind of studies behind like why this is advantageous, but I would just say like it's basically like it's not up for debate anymore. It's a proven thing that if like someone picks up the phone and actually takes the call, that you have a much higher chance of converting that if it's a sale, and just a better rating as far as customer experience if someone's picking up the phone versus having to leave a message and return the call. You lose
For sure.
like you might as well, like we at our company.
Especially, I would say like lower job size things where aerating my lawn as a homeowner is something on my to-do list to get done. I just sat down for half an hour to like book this appointment. I found 4 companies to call. I'm trying to get it booked, not like leave a message, get a quote, whatever, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
seems like you'd have a big advantage.
Yeah, exactly right. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this. Some of the pros of this model, the call center specifically, that I would outline is like it can be super cost effective. And I will add a caveat there at certain volumes. Like one of the big reasons, I'll talk about one of the other reasons here in a little bit why we got away, but one of the big reasons that we got away from the call center was because the volume that we were doing didn't financially make sense to use a call center anymore, because call centers typically charge by the minute that they're on phone calls, and at a certain volume point it just doesn't make sense to do it that way anymore. So but for smaller volume and smaller amount of minutes, it can be very cost effective. It can be very quick to implement. That implementation process for this, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that here in a bit, but like it's it's pretty quick to implement. Like you just have to decide on like what are the things that they'll tell you a lot of times, like the things they can handle. Our call center actually was scheduling appointments for us. Like they had access to our scheduler at the time and they could schedule appointments right in. Our business is a little bit different, right? Like
That's
we
because you have like that's more the way that you had it set up. Like
right.
customers themselves could book online,
Yeah,
so therefore customer service reps could too. That's not
exactly.
something that the agency brought
Right.
necessarily, I
They
guess.
they did bring it, but not for our industry typically. So
Mm.
the one that we worked with, the call center typically worked with like doctors' offices. And so they were very used to booking appointments. So that's actually one of the reasons we got into using a scheduler, just as a side note, was because they're like, oh, we can book appointments for you. We had to use the scheduler that they used. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
there was a limitation there and it was kind of a pain. There's a lot has changed since the time we were using it, but yeah, they could do that. They could book an appointment for certain services, for very basic services, and they again, there were limitations, but it's very cost effective. It was pretty quick to implement because you're just kind of giving them scripts, and because it's a more limited scope, it can be pretty quick to implement. Like
Cool.
you're going to hand that script off to their management team. They're going to train all of the reps from their company on how to handle that, and you don't have to go train all those reps like they're doing it.
I guess one other advantage over the dedicated, outsourced rep would just be that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Like
Yeah.
there's maybe 100 of these reps in a warehouse or office somewhere
Yeah.
answering these calls. You don't even notice if one of them leaves. Like you would have no idea.
Yeah. If they
Uh,
quit or get fired, like you have no
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
However, if you go through the process of, it's just like any full-time employee. If you get a dedicated outsourced rep,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So anyway, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What are so like what are some of the cons? Some of them are just the opposite of what we talked about, but what are some of the cons of this call center
The
model?
the big con for me from my experience and I think a lot of this depends on the company you get, but inevitably there's going to be a much more lack of personal, like there's just a lack of personalization and kind of like personal
And control, I
connection.
guess,
Yeah.
like control over quality and you don't know who the individual is, so you can't guarantee that they
Yeah.
speak the same language as your business.
Yeah, there's customers will speak to a different rep every single time they call. So
Yeah,
there's
they can't call
it's
back in and say, "Hey, can I speak with Julie again?"
yeah, like and we've all experienced that calling into like larger companies, right? Like you call Verizon and just as an example and like speak to some rep and then you get disconnected and you call back and you're like I was speaking to Julie. Like that means nothing. They're not going to get you reconnected with Julie. Whoever that person is that took that call
Yeah,
is going to try to like figure out your issue from scratch again. Um, and so like the
still good. Like
perception,
if they take a message and pass it on to you, like as long as there's a good escalation
yeah,
policy in place where the person can't help them, so it goes to a higher up rep. They can't help them, so they take a message for Jason,
yeah,
whatever it is, right?
exactly. Yep. And so those are the big disadvantages. There's certainly a perception kind of component there, your customer's perception, because it is a bit more apparent that like you're using outsourced services for this when you use a call center. Mostly because of like getting a different rep every single time. And again, we are kind of already touched on this, but they're much more limited in their scope. They can only perform very basic and super repetitive tasks because they're again they have hundreds, maybe thousands of reps, and they're all just in a software reading from your kind of if then script.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, as long as they're, kind of human and I think it's just like get the caller's issue solved.
Mhm.
And that's the main concern. I just want to get this to do off my list. And if it can be done efficiently, I've never cared when I call, a telecom company or something. And if it's quick and painless, that makes me happy.
Totally.
This is something that you see AI, like I keep hearing about this being one of the first things AI is disrupting is these, especially simple customer service
Yeah.
type tasks. I
That's
don't really know any of them, but
that's absolutely right. Like I mentioned earlier that this is, you can think of it a lot like a transcription service, right? Um, there's a lot of AI options out there that are coming online, that are essentially just that. Like it sounds like a human. Again, it's someone picking up the phone that's not a voicemail, that's actually interacting with the client. It's AI. Um, but like they're having a conversation with the client. They're kind of walking through an if then sort of model, just like an actual human would, and they're taking notes, and then they can actually transfer as well. So there are some options out there. I can't speak a ton to like how effective they are, but I maybe we'll do an episode on that later, because I'm playing with one right now. Even though we have outsourced reps, like, to save on volume and make it a bit more scalable, we're potentially implementing an AI model that will be the tip of the sphere. So like first you'll talk to
cool.
this AI agent, and then they'll transfer you to one of our outsourced reps when it's appropriate.
You know what I found was cool the other day? I was in a website chat,
Mhm,
and AI was like helping the live agent. So it
mhm.
started with AI, and we're used to seeing like a button or something where it's like talk to a human because you're like sick of it.
Yeah.
In this case, it didn't ask me to talk to a human. It just seemed to know that it wasn't helping me, and a human jumped in. And then through the chat, it was like both of them tag teaming the conversation and getting resources. And I thought it was brilliant. It was very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you a question. So you're a customer looking for service. When you call, would you rather speak to a human or rather speak to an AI?
Hmm. It depends what it is, but like if it's just a kind of like you were saying earlier, like something I just need to check off my to-do list sort of thing, I'd almost rather speak to an AI, because it's just
Yeah.
like it's going to be quick and to the point, and it's going to get the job done, and like that's all I need. So
Yeah. It's almost like less cognitive load or something.
yeah,
Like you don't have to worry about like, hey, have a nice day. And
yeah,
makes me sound like a dick, but yeah.
exactly. I think so. I can't speak to like how effective it is yet because I'm still building it out. But the one I'm playing with, if anyone's interested in it, is from 11 Labs. That's the one that
Okay.
I'm playing with. And one of the things I found really cool about it is, and there's a lot of them that can do this now, but it can actually make a voice clone. So like I could just talk to the thing. It takes like half an hour, but it'll give me a bunch of things that I have to say, right? I can talk to the
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know if you want that.
I
That's
know.
like your voice deep faked
Oh,
into
it's getting
11 laps.
creepy. But yeah, I can like talk into it for half an hour and it'll make a clone of my voice. And then that AI rep that now answers the phones will literally be me. It'll be AI me answering the phones and talking to people.
Now I'm wondering, like, is this even Jason Hoke on this podcast
You
with
should
me right now?
you should be concerned.
So you'd rather an AI than a human? That's interesting. I think that's
In
how it'll
most
go in
cases.
most cases. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
What
know,
about
a lot
you?
of people like, yeah, I think especially for simple tasks, like if I'm calling a renovation company asking about like design options and things like that, I'd rather speak to a human, I think. But for booking appointments, what time are you open till, like those
Yeah.
those simple things, definitely an AI. Yeah.
Well executed AI.
That reminds me, I heard, this is not from experience, that they have like sex robots in 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 like the red light district of Amsterdam or whatever, and they're more popular than the humans.
All right. Would you prefer it?
But I think I read that story like a couple years ago, but I think it's because there's it's like a whole new group of people that will use this,
Yeah.
because there's husbands that don't want to cheat on their wives and go to the human, but they're
Oh,
like, well, this is a
interesting.
robot.
Right. Yeah, it's like I was
I
using
think,
the vacuum, basically. Interesting.
yep.
Huh. Wow.
That's a question that we'll all face one day as the technology progresses.
I don't even know how to continue on with this episode after that. Like, that's all I'm going to be thinking about. I will say,
let's talk.
I will say, to wrap that last thought up, just as a clarifier,
Jason's opening tabs like mad right now.
Yeah, I'd rather speak to a well-executed AI, because we've all had the bad experience with like the early stage kind of. It was more like virtual receptionists that weren't super AI.
Those were like flow charts, right? It's like, say yes if this, say no if, or like say one or press one. Is like, oh my god. My
bank, which happens to be a Canadian bank, which is weird because I'm in America, but it like moved to the States, so you can probably narrow down which bank it is based on that information, has the absolute worst automated system, and you don't have another option. You have to go through the automated prompts before you can connect with a human, and it's terrible every single time. It can't understand the difference between yes and no. And then it's like, tell me your credit card number. I'm like, fuck off. There's no way that you're gonna get this. You couldn't get yes or no. All right. Brutal. That's my rant. So let's talk about the next style, which is the one I'm using now, which is the dedicated outsourced rep. So typically with this one,
how many do you have?
We have 3 that are in the customer service role. So we have a lot of outsourced staff,
like VAs and things like that. Okay.
Yeah. I have a sales assistant that's a virtual assistant. I have we have many developers that are not
robots of a certain type.
Yeah, robots of a certain type. I've got, but yeah, we have 3 actually, that's not true. Now we have 4 or 5. 1 or 2 customer service reps got hired when I was off in the last month. So we might have, I think we have 5 now, actually. Customer service reps. So
Jason's been tending to his baby.
Yeah.
Hasn't all been robots.
Yeah. I've been off for the last month, but I think we hired 2 new customer service reps. So we have 5 customer service reps. They're all following this model. So basically the way this model works, usually you can certainly go just like find these reps on your own. For most of this conversation, what I'm going to be chatting about is what I know the most, which is hiring through like an agency, right? So you can either do it through an agency or you can do it through like a freelance platform. Freelance platform would be just like the equivalent of like Craigslist, but you're specifically searching for like outsourced, meaning like overseas reps.
Onlinejobs.ph. That's
right.
Resource for like basically classified ads in the Philippines.
Yep.
For example. Yeah.
Exactly. What we do is we hire through an agency. I really like the agency model. So basically what that means is like I hire a company that already has a staff of a bunch of people, kind of like the call center. But instead of just like giving me like routing me to whoever's on their staff, they facilitate the hiring process. So they're like, we have 100 employees right now. 20 of them are looking for placement. So you're looking for these reps. They get to know your company. They get to know like your needs and specifically kind of your niche and what you're all about. And then they recommend employees from their pool, or they go out and recruit and bring employees in for your company. And it's specifically for you, for your company. So it kind of acts a bit like a recruiter of sorts. So the advantage of doing something like that is it's really easy to like scale up, because versus just like
you can just tell them, hey, we have like a spring rush, or we're growing the company a bunch. We're going to need a couple more. And so do you have like you must have a manager or somebody at the company that you consistently work with that like, because if you don't like a customer service rep, you don't just fire them and then fill out a form or something, right? But there's a manager or something you talk to.
Yep. So you get a dedicated manager from the agency who gets to know your business really, really well. And then they help with sourcing the candidates when you need to add new candidates or replace candidates. They help with managing your existing staff. So they like, just like any other good manager, they do like weekly or daily check-ins with these customer service reps. They're measured, like you tell them what KPIs are important for you and your business, and they're holding that team accountable to those KPIs. They're getting to know all of your content and material. They're handling the onboarding of these employees, the offboarding of these employees.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, so it's really nice in that way. We still have a manager internally that kind of oversees that manager and all these people, but
Yeah.
yeah, the advantage of this too is like you're getting reps that only work with your company. They're not split
Right.
between a bunch of other companies. They are a team member. Like the only difference is that you outsource them through like an agency.
So the agency takes a cut. Like this would be if you were to just hire them off of a like the onlinejobs.ph or whatever,
Yeah,
you could probably find someone cheaper because you're not paying an agency and their manager, their overhead, right?
correct. Yeah,
But yeah, obviously it comes with all the advantages you just described.
that's exactly right. Yeah. And so we, you get the advantage of having the management and having access to their pool of people and all that. So there is a little bit higher cost than if you just went and sourced them yourself through onlinejobs.ph, but or another platform.
Mhm.
But yeah, the nice part about this is like it's way more personalized to your business than the call center because you're
Yeah,
training
makes sense. Yeah.
actual teammates. They can be trained to your brand, your values, all your specific SOPs. And
Yeah.
because of that, their scope is quite a bit larger of the things that they can handle.
Are they more open to like I imagine the call centers, they have to be pretty strict with the softwares and things that they use because they have to have one incoming call system to manage whoever calls.
Yeah.
With yours, is there any limitations like that, or can you just say, "Hey, you guys have to be trained on HubSpot or whatever your element or something that your company uses"?
Yeah.
Can you treat it that way, like any employee?
Yes, absolutely. So,
Nice.
and different agencies are going to have different kind of rules and scope, right? So, like, again, we're talking kind of specifically about the customer service role here. Um, the agency I work with for my first few VAs is like very specific to customer service. So, they're not, if you're looking for someone who's just going to be like a number cruncher and help with like spreadsheet input and never like taking calls or anything like that, they may not be the best fit and they'll tell you
Okay.
that. But there's agencies that do that. Just a quick shout out here also. Like, so we work with a couple different companies and I'll give them shout outs here, but like Go2, like the number two is the one that we've used for many years. But I'm pretty sure the two
Are they in
new,
the Philippines or?
yeah, they're primarily in the Philippines, although they have agents who are like one of our agents is from El Salvador, actually. He lives in El Salvador. And,
Hell yeah, dude.
yeah.
Love El Salvador.
But I'm pretty sure our two most recent hires are actually through an agency that you and I both know, Market Hill, Corey Brewer's company.
Nice.
And Corey typically specializes.
I'm wearing his lawn care company's hat as well. This is
Yeah.
like the Corey Brewer show.
I know. Corey's agency typically specializes in like executive assistants, so people who are going to assist you with like whatever tasks. But they helped us source a couple CSRs as well.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Good.
we kind of already talked about most of the pros and cons for this one, but I'll just rattle a couple off. Like the pros, consistency for your customers. Like our customers know our customer service reps by name, the ones who call us. Like they know, like, hey, I was speaking to George. Can I speak with George again? And they can. There's a deeper product and service knowledge there, stronger team culture, even though they're remote. Like this is part of your team. So they're aligned with your company vision and those sorts of things. And they can perform more advanced tasks, which involve reasoning. They can be a bit more expensive than a call center, depending on the volume. Again, we found that they were more affordable for us because we hit a certain volume point. And it does take a bit longer to onboard and manage, although a lot of agencies, like I alluded to, really help with this process.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about that, like about just training and onboarding these folks that are offsite. What are kind of some of the challenges that you've faced with that, or like what are some of the key points that you would tell people to have prepared if you are going to go hire one of these agencies and bring their people on?
Yeah. I think it's just like onboarding anyone else for the most part. There's going to be like limitations depending on the approach that you go with, but like anything else, you get out of it what you put in. So I would think through this process of how you onboard and what things they need to be trained on. I would suggest
That's how I know you're an AI right there. Got you.
I would suggest training them on like a company overview, meaning like your values, your niche, those sorts of things. The dedicated reps versus the call center are going to obviously be much more receptive to that, because a rep only has like a couple seconds to look at
Yeah,
like
it's like a
your
bullet
company.
point. This is a lawn care company from Colorado. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Your services, your CRM or ticketing system. So we use like a customer service ticketing system to manage all that. I would highly recommend that at a certain volume. Like you should have a ticketing system, because there starts to become handoff with issues. There might be larger things. So
Probably also like what dollar value or what size of problems they're allowed to solve. Like can they solve problems up to $50? Can they like shell out gift cards and solutions without ever escalating them or
totally.
not? And then also like which way they should lean, because some companies are not as nice as yours with customer service things, right? Like where, there's places you go to return something that broke after 3 days and they're like, oh no, there's no returns. Like,
Right.
they're like prioritizing profit over customer service and being nice. So you'd have to really train them on what direction you like your company to operate. Give them some guardrails, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Guardrails is exactly right. Like you want to set those guardrails with the call center. You're not going to have much leeway with that. The call center, especially for
But it is for more simple tasks.
Yeah.
So that use case there kind of makes more sense.
Yeah. For refunds, stuff like that, like call center is going to escalate it to you or your team for most of that stuff. With an outsourced rep, yeah, set those guardrails. Like our reps, I think have like I don't even know. It might be like a $500 limit even, because we really like trust them. So it's like,
And they've been with you a while, right?
yeah, all of our reps, well, minus the 2 that we just hired last month, the 3 reps, I think they've all been with us over 3 years.
That's awesome.
With the company. Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked at any studies on it or anything besides ACA, but maybe there's something there where the retention is just a lot better than you would have here for full-time in-house local customer service reps.
It absolutely is. That's one of the big things that pushed us into doing this, is like we couldn't keep these positions filled with like local staff. Couldn't keep them filled, couldn't find good candidates for this type of role. We just really struggled with it. And
it's related to the job market in these other countries, I suppose.
Yeah, this is a very common job in, for example, like the Philippines. It is like the bulk of their market are people who work in call centers or work as like a customer service rep. It's very common there. And
I don't know this, but it must be seen as more of a full-time career than something like in Canada and US that you pass through. Like you might do it while you're young.
Absolutely.
Or to fit in around other jobs.
That's what I found. And I'll just say, like, I don't want to get too into this, but like I know there's a component here of like, well, should I be outsourcing jobs like overseas to someone else or those sorts of things? I'm not here to speak to whether you should or not. I'm just sharing my experiences. Like we found that we really struggled with keeping these roles in-house locally. We tried, and we had really good luck overseas. And I think a lot of the times there's certainly a cost saving here, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. And that's like the primary driver for a lot of people. What I would say though is like, yes, there's a cost saving, but also like your money can go a long way with people who live in different markets. Like just to share a little like anecdotal story. Like I remember one of our customer service reps we hired early on. In the interview process, we always ask like, what's a goal that you have like over the next year? And the goal of this customer service rep, just to kind of paint a picture of like how our lives are different. He's like, my goal by the end of the year is I want to buy myself like an actual office chair.
Nice.
And because he was using like crates, like milk crates, that's what he was working on every day, and he was working 10-hour days. And so as a signing bonus, when we signed him, we sent him an office chair. And the first team meeting that he had with the team, he was like taking his camera down and showing his chair. And he's like,
that's so sweet.
And it's just like a really cool feeling. And again, like you can have your own feelings about whether you should or shouldn't do this.
It benefits your local company as well, like financially, but I don't know why people crap on business owners about that. Like, do you know how hard it is to run a business? It's very, very hard
Right.
to run a profitable business. And you can, it makes your business stronger for all of your local employees as well. Like
Totally.
it allows you to give more opportunities and pay your local people more too. So
Right.
yeah, to me, it's a lot of benefits. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything wrong with it. But it is a kind of a divided topic for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Get used to it though, because now it's just going to be robots.
Yeah, exactly. So just to kind of wrap up what you were talking about with the training and onboarding process, like another thing we haven't touched on is just like tone of voice. That's actually one that's like really important, no matter if you're hiring locally or outsourcing. Like, again, it's kind of harder with a call center. But with dedicated reps, like tone is pretty important. Like, does your company have more of a playful, casual tone, or are you super like formal by the books? Like, there's a lot of
get the call done, or are you okay with your people, chatting with Myrtle for 30 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. How to handle complaints or escalations. That's a big one. You should spend some time on that. Like, what things require an escalation and to who. And then another one that comes up a lot that is important to think through is like weather and site related sort of stuff. So like, remember that these folks are not in the same location as you. So you need to have,
how's the weather? That's such an unfortunate thing that's such common small talk.
I know.
It really screws this up.
Well, it's also like, because our business is so dependent upon the weather, right? Like, if all of a sudden a customer calls and they just start the conversation with like, are you going to be able to perform my mowing service today? And the customer service rep's just like,
they're like, is it winter right now in Colorado or summer?
Yeah. So for ours, like they just literally check the weather daily. First thing as they start their route, they check the weather, and they probably know what's going to happen better.
You get them like some traffic cams or something to actually see, right?
Right.
That's cool though. Yeah.
So yeah, that sort of stuff. I would definitely recommend doing like recorded calls or mock scenarios. We do call recording reviews every week with our customer service reps. So we'll highlight like some calls that went really well or some calls that might need improvement. Those sorts of things. Not just as part of the onboarding process, but like the ongoing sort of like accountability.
That's like how you keep the bar high.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's really cool. What are some of the things that people might not first think of? We've talked about some of the, responsibilities that these guys can handle. What are maybe some of the things that, people don't think of right off the top? Like scheduling jobs. I never knew that it was that easy. What about more complicated ones where there's not like a price list? Like, can they somehow pull off estimates or something, or how does that stuff work?
It depends on the resources you give them, but to like paint a picture of like how we do it at our company, all our customer service reps handle all of our residential sales from start to finish. So
maintenance and enhancements, or
sorry, not enhancements. They don't handle enhancements. Yeah, but they handle one-off maintenance, and they also handle recurring contracts. So
one-off maintenance, like a sprinkler startup.
Yeah, sprinkler activation or winterization and aeration and fertilization. Those are the easy ones for us because, as you alluded to, like we have an online scheduler. So it's just like, just need the zip code, the zip code tells us what days we're going to be in their area, offer them the day and the time block that they're going to be in, then get all their information and book them in. So that's
production too. Like they sell it, and either them or your system, I can't remember which, gets it on the schedule for the crew too, doesn't it?
Yeah. So they input, the way that works for one-off services is the first question they're going to, like if you call up and you're like, I need a sprinkler activation, how much is it? They'll tell you the price. It's a flat rate price for us. So they'll say it's, $100 up to 10 zones. It's $5 for each additional zone. Mm-hmm. Then they'll say, great, let's book it. They'll say, the first question they'll say is, what is your zip code? Give them the zip code. They'll key that into the system. The system will only show them availability that we're going to be in that zip code. So we'll be there next Monday in that area. I have an AM time block available between 7 and noon, or I can do Wednesday between noon and 5. Which one works for you? And then the customer tells them, they grab that. Okay, I need to grab some information from you. This is where they get their address, they get their name, they get their email, they get their phone number, and then they'll actually collect payment information as well. So they'll take like an encrypted payment system. They'll take the credit card number, put that into the system.
Sorry, could you unpack that a little bit? So, like, as soon as you said they take their payment, it's like you're letting your neighbors give their credit card to someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
But you said encrypted there. So, like, how does that actually come to be?
Yeah. So generally now with the encrypted systems is they'll say, I'm going to, once you hear the beep, I need you to say your credit card number. And so they'll actually press a button. The beep will go, the customer will say the credit card number. The customer service rep can't hear that, but it's entering that in automatically and encrypting it. And then the customer has their credit card information on file. So,
Dude, that's slick. Is that something that the agency offers? Or is that something in your, like in ACA's software and HubSpot or something?
that's something that we have. It's not
That's
through the
badass.
agency. And so then they take the payment information, they book the service, and now it's on the schedule. And then yes, the system now, the software at this point, actually puts it like onto a route for that day and optimizes the route and hands it off to the production team, and does all the rest of the work. But so that's how one-off services are booked. But even for more complex, like our recurring contracts, the same thing. They'll take the address information, they'll enter it into the CRM. That'll spit into our primary kind of CRM. Another VA, not the customer service rep, another VA on the back end really quick will measure the property from an aerial view. They'll input that into the CRM. It'll spit the pricing out and it'll email a quote to the client. And everything from that point on is automated. So the client gets a automated quote. They can select their package. And then for us, like a lot of people only think of customer service reps as being inbound. Our customer service reps actually get assigned tasks from our CRM that's like, hey, we sent a quote to this client 3 days ago, but we haven't heard. Follow up with this client. So then they'll call the client and say, hey, we spoke 3 days ago, sent you a quote via email, but we haven't heard from you.
Like full-on salespeople.
Yeah, that their deliverables, like they have an employment agreement just like any of our other staff, and one of their deliverables is dollars sold for their like revenue streams they're accountable to. So
nice.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You?
What's that?
Did they ever beat Jason in sales?
Let's not kid ourselves here.
Yeah, you're making them sell like $60 aerations or something.
I know. It's not fair.
3-year contracts or something.
Although I will say, I do remember a quarter once where
by volume, like number of closed deals, and I bet.
Oh, for sure, yeah, they would win every time. Yeah, I will say there was a quarter I remember where Marty beat me on the leaderboard, and that really hurt my ego because if either from listening to this podcast or like you, Brandon, know Marty is just our bot. He's a made up person. So he's
not even AI, I don't think.
No. It's like like a poor man's AI that we built early on, but like it's essentially just an automated system. AI. Yeah. It's an automated system that's driven by Jonathan's marketing efforts. And so there was a quarter where Marty beat me and it really hurt my ego. But so yeah, that's a big one that people don't think of, but like sales and scheduling, they can do that. Again, probably not a call center, but a dedicated rep could do those sorts of things. But we had a call center scheduling some of our services early on. That's actually like, I'll just say that's very common in other industries, like the garage door industry. Their customer service reps are their primary salespeople. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it's like repetitive and not a lot of custom quoting and low job size, like it makes a lot of sense. Although garage doors seem expensive, but
totally.
Could you like, if there was downtime or a slow season and you want to keep them employed, can you get them doing admin work? Like I'm wondering, I guess what I'm asking is, does the agency restrict you from booking them with anything? Like, is it like, no, they're customer service people, you can't have them in your CRM doing data cleanup or some crap? Like,
It depends on the agency, but what I found is like the agency has like is motivated to keep those staff employed with the company they're with, right? So generally they'll be fine with that as long as the agent themselves is fine with it. Like you're not trying to assign them something
sure.
that's way beyond their skill level. We
Or yeah,
actually,
what they didn't sign up for.
yeah, one of our reps actually, so we had this is like the level of like how our reps, I think this is a good story to paint like how our reps are, like how great they are. Um, we had a rep who we wanted to have coverage 7 days a week, right? So we scattered our schedule, and this rep worked like a Wednesday through Sunday week, right? But on Saturdays and Sundays, we ask the reps not to make outbound sales calls on Saturdays and Sundays. Like we don't want them hounding people on the weekend about their quote or whatever. So inevitably, like his sales dipped because 2 of his days that he worked a week, like he couldn't do outbound sales calls or anything like that.
Mm.
So he, instead of saying like, "What the hell?" Like I can't do this, he came to me with a proposition that just said, "Hey, like I'm proposing that you decrease my sales goal by X%. And here's
Mhm.
why. Like historically looking, when I have these 2 days I can't do, this is like where I'm at. I'm proposing that you decrease my sales goal by X%. But in turn, what I'll do, because I can't make outbound calls on the weekend, is I'll hop into the CRM and I'll do work that cues the other sales reps up to be able to produce more when they're on shift during the week." And so, for example, the first one that he said is he's like, "We're going into power ranking season, right? And we know that we're going to do all these marketing efforts, all this sort of stuff. But what I'm proposing is I'm going to pull a list from the CRM. I'm going to pull a list of all the people who had power ranking service with us last year, but haven't yet signed up this year. And then in the CRM, I'm going to create tasks, like call tasks for the other CSRs to call those individuals and get a personal touch with them. I'm also going to build an email sequence for them so they can just press a button and send an email
That's
sequence to
awesome.
these individuals. And the hope is that we can increase our sales numbers because I'm kind of automating some of the tasks that the other reps can do and queuing them up for more work. So their sales should increase to be able to cover the amount that you're decreasing my sales goal for the weekend." And like he proposed all this.
What
And
what
what's that?
what was the result like once, if you, I'm assuming that you went ahead with it?
Yeah, it worked
Uh,
out. It worked out great. It's like we had an increase in sales. Those other at the time there was 3 reps. Those other 2 reps were not only able to make up for the amount that we decreased his sales, but we're able to sell even more. And so we just started doing it every week. What we do is
cool.
we meet in a sales L10 every week. So we do a sales meeting, and each week we would assign him a new task for the weekend. So it's like, okay, so that power raking campaign worked out really well. Let's hit one for sprinkler activations now this next week. So like you work on that and then get it queued up. And then his other thing was like, there's also a bunch of customer service tickets that I can handle and take off their plate so they can focus more on sales. Like there's like
Oh, good.
customer service questions and stuff that came in, so I can handle those over the weekend. So yeah, it's like that's the level that these guys are at, these guys and
Yeah,
gals. Um,
yeah, love that.
and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. So I don't think we really touched on it yet, but everyone's thinking about the cost of these things and probably wondering, versus the cost of hiring someone local, full time, part time, whatever, for 22, $25 an hour kind of a deal. What is the cost, firstly, of the call center model where you were saying you kind of pay by the minute? Is that right?
Yeah. And it's obviously going to vary depending on the company that you use, but
Mhm.
most common what I've seen with a little bit of research, I had to look this up because the rates that I was paying back in the day are obviously very outdated, but on average it's typically around $1 to $2 per minute. Some people do flat rate, like flat call rates. That's not as common because a call could last 30 seconds, or you could get Marjorie who talks to you for 45 minutes.
It was Myrtle.
Oh, Myrtle, sorry, yeah. Marjorie is a name that I often use. There's people listening to this right now that are like, "Ah, Marjorie." But yeah, so $1 to $2 per minute is kind of the average. So there's typically a minimum, but that minimum could be as low as like 300 to 600 a month for like pretty basic coverage. Obviously, as your volume increases, that's going to increase pretty significantly.
Right. Okay. And you're basically, you're kind of just watching for when that starts to touch the dedicated rep numbers,
Yeah.
and then consider making that switch. So a full-time dedicated rep, what is that kind of costing?
If you're going through an agency, you're probably looking at like 1,200, anywhere from like 1,200 to 2,500 a month per rep.
Quite a range.
Yeah. And it depends on the skill set of that rep, how long they've been with your company. A lot of these agencies will build it into their package where it's like, if you have a rep with your company for a full year, then they get a bump up to this pay level. And then after 2 years, they get a bump up to this pay level. And they'll tell you that right up front. But 1,200 to 2,500 would be kind of the average. That includes the cost. So that would be like 40 hours a week for a full month. And that includes the cost of that rep, the management costs, as I mentioned, the onboarding costs, like everything that goes into there that's like all in for that employee. We do actually, like at our company, we pay in addition to that. So we have incentive structures, bonus structures for basically every role in our company, and that includes these customer service reps. That's not something that the agency did or even like recommended. We put that in place and said, hey, we want to pay our reps additional dollars based on hitting their deliverables. So if they
Cool.
like exceed their sales goal, then I want to pay them X amount per month additional. And so we just
You
do
think
like,
the agency takes a cut of that?
they're not allowed to.
Oh,
We
nice.
stipulated that in the contract. So it's what's called pass through. So we stipulated
Like
that,
tips, sort of. Yeah.
yeah, we want to have pass through wages directly to our staff. And that's for their incentives and bonuses. That's because it's 100% based on their performance.
Yeah. What a good company. Is ACA hiring right now?
Absolutely. We're always hiring.
Sweet. Well, if you're in Denver,
Yeah.
probably not hiring for call center reps in Denver, but you want to run a mower.
Yeah.
Right mowers, right? Right standards?
That's
I
right.
said right way too many times. That should be an ad.
That's right.
So if you're an X-Mark guy like me, no go.
When you're out here in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna get you some time on the mower and get you to come around to the right mowers.
I probably will. They don't sell them here. That's why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We
That's
got
why
John Deere, Toro, which is the same X-Mark, same as X-Mark, and Hustler. We bought some Hustlers.
Did you?
Yeah.
How were they?
I don't like them, but yeah. Wasn't fully my decision. I don't like the controls. We use walk binds instead of stand-ons.
Yeah.
And the controls on Hustler stand-ons are like two motorcycle grips, like the throttle on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So to go forward, you like turn both of them forward. It's very weird.
I don't like that either.
Yeah. But it is really easy. It's the fastest controls to learn for a brand new person. But it's got to be the shittiest controls for an experienced person compared to X-Mark, the ACS.
Yeah.
Those are sick. Yeah. Okay. So we kind of already covered where to find them, but is there any like final tips on where to start looking? You mentioned GoTo is an agency that you liked. Any other agencies that you'd throw out there?
Go to Market Hill, I mentioned as well. That's Corey's. That goes beyond customer service reps. If you're looking for a great executive assistant, reach out to Market Hill. For like freelance, if you're just trying to skip the agency, you already mentioned this, but onlinejobs.ph is great. Upwork is another option. We've hired people for other roles through Upwork and then eventually kind of taken it off of Upwork and decided just to hire them direct.
Upwork I found is more for like one-offs. I don't know if that's correct, but I found like Upwork and Fiverr to be better for one-off like project type help. And online jobs is literally like a classified ads thing.
Yeah. Referrals, like ask other industry peers. This is becoming more and more common. So just ask around, obviously. Some tips though, like I would definitely ask if they've worked with a home service business before. That's kind of one of the advantages of using an agency. They can be like, oh, we have these people who have worked with like like an electrician before,
Right.
and it's close enough. And then obviously like vet for English proficiency. Like, don't worry. Like the number one thing I hear from people is like, well, they have an accent and it's like a pretty strong accent. And like that does not matter. Like,
Or like, can you understand them?
yeah,
Can they get the job done? Yeah.
yeah. I first of all, a lot of my customer service reps speak better English than I do. They just happen to have an accent. But they like, for me, it's like I can hire people locally who have an accent as well. And
Yeah.
it's not as big a deal to your customers as you think it is. It's a much bigger deal if they like can't get a hold of someone.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
And what about if they're in the Philippines, that's a pretty serious time zone thing. If they're in, Central America, it's not as bad. But
yeah.
I guess we've hired people in the Philippines before, and it's just something you really have to hammer home.
Yeah.
One thing about we always hired, I've never used an agency myself for VAs. I never really had CSRs, but sometimes when you hire people off of a freelance platform, they will tell you or imply that you're the only company they're working for, when in reality they have like 2-3 jobs going and they're just working 18 hours a day,
Yeah.
juggling like 3 full-time pays. I would imagine with an agency that's almost impossible to do, and they're full-time just working for you. They've got a manager watching over them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a different type of remote work. I don't even think they're from home necessarily. Like they are probably working in an office building with supervision and stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big one. And with an agency, like they're pretty much always gonna be like matching your time zone. That's like part of the job. And it's very common. If you're doing freelance, just you have to be very specific about that as a requirement. And the other thing is internet reliability. Like recognize that these folks are in a different part of the world with different infrastructure. And so
Dude, even your internet sucks sometimes and you're in Denver.
yeah, dude, I know. I'm getting fiber upgrade here in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that is like a big one. So make sure that there's a plan in place. Like they need to be able to communicate with you if the internet goes down. There needs to be a plan in place for coverage, those sorts of things. There needs to
If
be
they're freelance, that even just their computer is capable of running the software that you need to run. Otherwise, you're buying them a computer, right?
With freelance, I started when we do freelance, there was a lot of time where we've just like made that like the first step, like we're buying you a computer with freelance in place. With an agency, there's less of a need to because it's a requirement. Like they need to have.
We had them do a speed test like in the Zoom call.
Yeah.
We would be like, okay, please open a browser, go to speedtest.net or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are all really good tips. Yeah, it's pretty clear that you've had great success doing this and worked out a lot of the kinks. So yeah, I like it.
Thanks. Yeah. I just say like our employees, our customer service reps have been excellent. It took us a while to get to that point and like get it built up. Like I said, we went through the call center and then the reps. It's like any other role, but yeah, they're fantastic. They're just
one of the things I had to wrap my head around when using VAs and just assistants in general, because I hadn't used CSRs, is like, I know this sounds kind of shallow or something, but it's like treat them like they're employees of yours. There's just something about someone being on the other side of the world, never really even having the ability to meet your team. It's not like remote work. Like it feels different than having a remote employee that's in your country or down the street.
Yeah.
But like you've had these folks for 3 years plus.
Yeah.
Like they have helped you build the business just as anybody else has locally here that's on the tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just, if you built your company to a point where you could have them flown out for team events one day or something like that, I mean, I would really try to just get them ingrained in your company, in team meetings, like Zoom meetings and stuff, or whatever you can do, and just treat them like employees.
Yeah, it's part of our 3-year plan, actually. In our painted picture and our vision is to actually be able to fly all of our remote staff in, everyone, like not just the CSRs, Anastasia, who
That'd
like
be cool.
we
Yeah.
want to bring Anastasia in, like bring everyone in for employee events and just make that part of the culture.
Nice. Someone was telling me Bezos is getting married. Have you heard of this? About
I
this?
I had heard a little bit about it, yeah.
And I'm foggy on the details. It was secondhand, but it's like on some remote island or some like insane venue, right? And so each guest he's giving like 75 or 100 grand to come to his wedding, because it's so expensive to travel to his wedding, and like,
Wow.
Yeah. So, I
How
mean,
do
that's kind of what you're doing with the CSRs. You're going to have to fly them out, put them up at a hotel.
How do I get on Bezos' list to go out to that wedding?
How do you give a guy a wedding gift?
Yeah, you don't.
Oh man.
You want to do a speed round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'll answer first. I think I've
Cool.
done it the other way a few times.
All right.
Give it to me.
So
Speedy.
I know you mentioned already that you haven't necessarily done CSRs, but we'll just talk about like outsourced reps in general. So best tool for training or onboarding an outsourced rep.
Yeah, just like I said, like treat them like an employee. So no special systems for them. I'm not gonna and harshly, like I'm not gonna even adjust to time zone differences or anything like that. That's part of the agreement, is that you'll have to work at night if you're working for us. Yeah, that onlinejobs.ph, it's super helpful, because it also like there's like little training portions on there that teach you about their culture, and that's important to learn.
Oh yeah.
About they have different holidays, for example. There's so many things that I just didn't even think of.
13th month.
Yeah, 13th month bonus. I was like, this woman's scamming me. She wants to be paid a 13th month, and then no, apparently that's a thing in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I would say one of the best resources I found.
Cool. Biggest win from outsourcing a role.
One thing that's sick is with the time difference, and like if you do set their schedule like this, getting data updated overnight. Do you say data or data in America? Or is that a personal thing? Maybe
I say data, but I feel like it split. Actually, I think I go back and forth, but that's because I hang out with so many Canadians. I caught myself the other day saying process.
Hell yeah. Speaking of comedians and data,
Yeah.
Ola Data, awesome comedian from Alberta.
Huh.
Nigerian guy. He's hilarious. Shout out to Ola Data.
Ola Data.
He's like a local comedian. He wouldn't be getting too many shout outs on these podcasts at this point, what I know. But man, he's hilarious.
You've never taken me to a comedy show in Calgary. I've taken you to at least one comedy show in Denver.
Well, you don't come up here near as much as I go down there.
That's a fair point. I've set myself up for that. All right. Yeah, I would agree with that. The overnight data thing is like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. So they're pulling reports, they're updating spreadsheets. You get up in the morning, or you're supposed to have this project done, but it's like 7 p.m. and you didn't get to it yet.
Yeah.
Get your VA to help you out overnight. You go to bed, wake up, boom.
Yeah. We
Like
did.
magic.
We had a VA updating our production scoreboards for a while, where it was like the routes would end. So the crews don't end their route till 5 p.m. or if it went long, maybe 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
But then the VA comes in and overnight they're pulling all the data from the routes and they're putting that into the scorecard. So when we arrive for our morning huddle at 7 a.m., it's all there in the scorecard.
Totally.
Yeah. Love that. Cool. Biggest outsourcing mistake.
I learned a hard lesson with the first one, where I just kind of stopped doing like daily check-ins. Like I wasn't treating them like a normal employee, where I'm just always chatting with people in the office, right? And so they would have their recurring list of to-dos, but we weren't checking in on them. And so things just kind of started to drift a bit. I'm pretty sure they just got a second job and they were kind of doing both at the same time, which was pretty frustrating. So ultimately the same thing that would happen with a remote worker here, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I say like integrate them right into your actual team. That's my suggestion.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Are you prepared? Are you sitting down?
I think I'm ready.
Yeah. What's the best tool that you found for training, onboarding?
I would say just like Loom is great. Like it's so easy to just like record a quick video and hand it off to CSR or a VA or whatever it may be. So that, and then Trainual or another like LMS or learning management software is also good.
Cool. What's the biggest win you found from outsourcing CSRs?
So I've kind of already I've been kind of pumping my team up here, talking a lot about my team, but just like
We're good.
to give some stats on it, like we have a fully outsourced customer service team. So they handle every initial customer interaction. So if it's an email, a phone call, whatever, they handle every initial interaction. So to put some numbers in perspective, last year, just on the customer service side, so actual tickets, like these are like problems that need to be solved, right? Customer service interactions or questions that need to be answered. Between 3 reps last year, we had 3 last year, they solved over 20,000 tickets, customer service tickets.
What was the biggest mistake you made probably early on when you're learning about working with these guys?
Biggest mistake I would say is becoming dependent on that call center model. So we kind of compared the call center versus the outsourced rep, and the call center was fantastic. I don't want to just downplay call centers because they can be really great for
like a struggle to make the transition, kind of like.
Yeah, because we just used one call center. It was like we had built everything around that call center, and actually what happened with that particular call center, I mentioned that they specialized in like doctors' offices.
Okay.
They got hacked and had an information breach where a bunch of personal data got stolen from them.
Somebody found it's like, oh, I got all these medical records, and then it's like, why is this aeration job in here?
Yeah. So they got hacked. There was a breach in their system, and ultimately what it ended in, unfortunately, this is a very sad story, but their business folded. And so all of a sudden we were left without any sort of solution for our customer service team. So we then transitioned on the fly to local customer service reps. And that was a nightmare. We just could not keep people in that role. And also trying to figure out how to onboard those reps and everything, because we were so used to the call center. It was just a really painful transition before we finally landed on the outsourced representative route and kind of dialed that in. So and I think, for us, it was the call center model that we were dependent upon. I think becoming too dependent on one model at all, is a problem. You need to be prepared to be able to hire people for this role.
That's fair. Cool. Well, that was a better episode than I thought, not knowing anything about CSRs myself. A little bit. I've learned from you over the years, and if I ran a business like yours, I would be leaning into it really hard. So yeah, you're definitely an expert in that space. Thanks.
I appreciate that. I just have a good team. Team of people.
Cool. What do we do now?
Well, we got a cheers. Are you done with your drink? Are you close to done?
Coming.
Got that skinny little Michelob Ultra. All right, let's do a cheers.
It's got 3 grams carbs.
Cool.
Cheers.
Oh, beer rating. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
How would you rate that?
Oh my God. How many carbs is in your beer, for example? What's a normal beer's carbs?
I don't know.
I never looked at it until I was told I had to.
I don't even know.
You know what Michelle said? I said, what? I said, why are we doing this keto? Or why are you doing it? And I do it because she does all the cooking.
Yeah.
And she said, I like the rules. she likes the rules of a diet. So it helps her. It's like easy to get groceries, puts, constraints on it. I was like,
I
that's
can
just a spreadsheety thing to say.
I can relate to that, actually. That's what I was saying earlier with the Apple Watch thing. This was prior to recording, but like
narrows the menu down at the restaurant. It's like, oh, I can only have these two things.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
I actually like kind of enjoyed, we did 75 hard a while ago, if you recall that period. That's like pretty strict, 75 hard. It was fun.
Right.
It was good. And it was a good challenge. But like there was
you and Serena?
Yeah, Serena and I did 75 hard. And there was something about it. I didn't always enjoy it, but there was something about the structure and the rules of it. It forces you to, you know what it is? It forces you to just know when to say no to stuff where it's just like, nope, that's not happening. It's not within my guardrails.
Isn't it interesting? You can't just set those on your own.
No.
You need like paperwork that says, no, this is the rules of this game. You're like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
We should change our lives. Okay. So how many carbs does that have?
It doesn't say on the can.
Probably like 2 bushels of grass or something.
Probably.
What's your rating? Are you having
what was your rating?
Aneurysm? I don't know. This is Michelob Ultra. Like, I couldn't tell the difference when I picked up my glass of water or this. I'm gonna give this 3 carbs out of 10.
3 carbs out of 10. All
I
right.
bought 15 of them though, so
well, you're stuck. You don't have much of a choice right now. I even searched online. I can't find carbs anywhere. Probably wise. Good call on not posting that.
Well, you do that. Start doing the keto, and then I'll just I'm gonna be in Denver in 2 or 3 weeks, and then we can just be keto bros.
Maybe I will. No, because then we can't drink our new sponsor
right after our new sponsor. They're in Denver? It's local?
Yeah, Knotted Root. I don't know if it's Denver. It's Nederland, Colorado.
Email them. Tell them we gave them a huge opportunity on our podcast today.
How about instead of me,
let's go over there.
That's going to be my request from this episode. Instead of me emailing them, I need every listener who's listening to this to look up the email. I should have had this prep, but look up the email for
Put it in the show notes. Do we have show notes?
Yeah, look in the show notes. I'll have the email for Knotted Root Brewing Company.
It's like email your MP.
Yeah. Email them and tell them that they need to sponsor the Beer Garden, specifically with their Moist Green Organic. You're going to hate this, by the way, if they become our sponsor, because it's an unfiltered double dry hopped IPA.
That is what it would taste like to eat the grass out of that lawnmower, though.
Yeah, so that's good. Maybe this is the beer that'll bring you around. So anyways, email them, tell them they need to sponsor our show. But in the meantime, I'm going to give them a 9.9 out of 10.
Just because they're going to watch it now.
Yeah, well, of course. It's the highest rating I've given a beer on this show. It's got a lawn boy mower on it. Like
that is kick-ass. The label gives it 2 points.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say also, if anybody knows of any other lawn cutting inspired beers, especially the picture on the label, that's very important to me. Let us know.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's a great way to end it. I appreciate everyone tuning in. As always, like, comment, and share. But more importantly on this episode, email Knotted Root Brewing Company and tell them they need to sponsor our podcast. And thanks, as always, for listening to The Beer Garden. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to The Beer Garden. Please find us on YouTube at The Beer Garden Podcast and subscribe, like, and enable notifications.